another one of our very popular reporters roundtables today. They are always very entertaining and always state's top reporters who will participate, and they will be introduced in a minute. Obviously, the popularity of these events is because Jersey, the economy, which is always challenging. We have a survey that we put out earlier this year where negative influence of inflation, labor shortage, supply chain issues, and the recession we're so there's a number of things that are impacting us that will be discussed today. I'm sure a topic will also be the midterm elections, which are significant bearing on the dynamics in Washington. And we also have right now the triumvirate of our governor, our assembly, trying to find their way together or separately, as the case may be. So a number of issues that are out there that hopefully will be an issue that will be addressed, I hope, which is the most important issue on my docket is anyway, we can't do these without sponsors. I want to thank the sponsors we have for today's event: Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, KPMG, New Jersey American Water, and Verizon. Thank you to all those organizations who have been great partners of ours for years and great corporate citizens in New Jersey. And today's Reporters Roundtable I will have Tom Bergeron, the owner and editor of ROI&J, introduce our panelists and also moderate today's discussion. So, Tom, it's all yours.
Thanks, Tom. Enjoyed being here. I didn't realize I was a straight man today. Tom's offering the jokes early. Let's talk about how this is going to go. We always say it's a fast-paced, unpredictable half hour, which goes much longer than that. And last time I did John McLaughlin. This time I'm going to try to switch off between Ron Burgundy and Ted Baxter, depending on what your cultural idea is. You can go with either of those. Here's how it's going to work. The chamber has been nice enough to give me like 800 questions, which I can go through. At the same time, the chat box is open. We want to hear from you. I know my friend Walter is going to be chiming in any second now with his question. Anybody else wants to jump in, we certainly welcome it. For now, we're going to let our reporters jump in. This is always a fun group. I get to introduce them one at a time. First is Stacey Sherman of Bloomberg, as fine a journalist as there is in the state, as fine as the organization. Stacey, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that very nice intro.
There you go. Second, Rhonda always has the best setup. She's representing the essence of TV. Love it. Love you, Rhonda. Welcome to the show.
Tom, it's my pleasure.
And last but not least is my friend Daniel Munoz, who's now killing it at the Bergen Record. Daniel, always good to have you.
Thanks for being.
Or are we supposed to say North Jersey? See, I'm an old newspaper guy. We don't identify ourselves by the newspapers anymore.
Right.
All right, so we're going to start with something a little different, and this hits close to home to all of us, so please bear with us. Rick, you can throw this on the screen at any moment. About a week ago, Rhonda and I had the pleasure to go to Phil Alangi's house in Westfield, and we met with 18 Ukrainian journalists who were on a tour of the U.S. Who knew? I didn't. The U.S. and Ukraine has had a cultural exchange for 50 years and has had a journalistic exchange for 30. And essentially what happened was a handful of journalists came to the state. They met with news organizations and other organizations in New York and D.C. for a week. Essentially, they were saying, please don't forget about us. We know that the war gets old. We know that news gets out. We want to make sure the American media keeps talking about it. Rhonda and I got to spend a lovely evening talking about how they do their jobs. And I'll speak for Rhonda here. It made both of us realize how little difficulties we have. Rhonda, jump in.
Right. So the bottom line is we're never going to complain about everything again, because what these people are going through, and to actually sit down and hear the stories. And by the way, Tom, I want to plug your story on ROI called War Stories. Google it, look it up. It's a very detailed accounting of what's going on with them. But they're all personally going through a lot. But I think what really struck me is the power of social media right now for people in terms of getting information about this war. They all had some very difficult personal stories that they were going through, but they are so determined to get news out any way they can. And several people really found that through social media, they were able to communicate, and people are desperate for information as that war goes on.
I spoke to one woman who's a TV producer up in the northern part of the country. And as you recall, that on the first day that the soldiers came in from Belarus and they surrounded her city, and she realized she quickly moved to Telegram, which is their version of Twitter, essentially, and started giving just basic news and information. Here's where you can be safe. Here's where you can get water. Here's where you can get medication. And this was unbelievable to me. She said, well, for the first time as a journalist, I had to not tell the whole truth, because she realized the Russians were also monitoring what she was writing. So what they would do as a journalistic organization is, she said, we would give landmarks. We would tell people, here's where you can get water. And unless you lived in the city, you had no idea where that was. Which was brilliant way to get the news out, but just to show, we don't have to give hints on where things are going on. We tell people exactly where it is. Just that kind of stuff was just overwhelming to hear it. So I just wanted to start with that, because from the journalistic community, it was incredible to see.
It really was. I mean, it was a difficult evening. I had a lot on my mind when I left there, but they don't want us to forget about what's going on there. And oftentimes in the news cycle world that we live in, some of these stories move from, I'll say, the front page for the old newspaper days, but it's not the top story. It's not the lead story anymore. And they really wanted to get that message out, that there is a war, people are being killed, and they are trying every way they can to spread that message.
They said, credit to us, the journalists were the ones that were hunted. They didn't care about the local politicians. They could take care of them. But they knew that the journalists had the ability to get stories out. And one even said, look, if they came into your apartment and saw any type of equipment that indicated you were a journalist, you were arrested. And for anyone who knows what the Gulag is, that's not a good thing to be in a time of war. So it really was telling for us. So we just wanted to share that. I wish I had a link on where someone could contribute to what they're doing, because it was just terrific. All right. That being said, let's move on. But I want to stay on journalism a little bit. We're going to go to politics. I want to give another journalism topic, because stunningly, I always find that people love inside journalism stories. So the elections are coming up, and I want to raise the point. Some of the people running have refused to do certain sit downs with some organizations, have done them with others. I wanted to ask the journalists out there, what do you think of the old, okay, let's sit down and talk to the editorial board and try to get the approval or the recommendation or the support of organization X, Y, or Z? It used to be, look, you went to the biggest city in the county or the area or the state and tried to get their endorsement. I don't know if that's still relevant. Stacey, I'm going to go to you. What do you think about the idea of newspapers endorsing candidates?
Well, I'm old school like you, so I miss the newspapers and all that went along with it. I don't know how much. I've never understood how much pull an endorsement by a newspaper actually has, because everyone pretty much knows who they're going to endorse. It would be a big shock if a certain newspaper would endorse a different candidate than people expect them to. So I don't know how much weight it ever pulls. That being said, it's just kind of strange to turn down a sit down with an edit board. I mean, I've been having worked for a newspaper in way too long, in a long time. So, and we keep endorsements separate at Bloomberg, but it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's time for change, right? Who knows?
Rhonda, I'll kick it to you. Is it still important this day and age to sit with edit boards, whether it's a newspaper or a TV station or a website at this point?
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like the candidates should try to get their message out to as many. What I'd actually like to see less of are 30-second TV campaigns where, it's a lot of gobbledygook in some cases for 30 seconds, and you never go in depth, right? You never hear anything in depth. So I think that is the beauty of sitting down with an editorial board. Even though you might know where the endorsement might go, maybe you get more information. I think messaging is changing. I mean, obviously, candidates weren't using Twitter years ago. So I'm not sure how much weight it carries. I do think it is in everyone's best interest if candidates are as open as possible and speaking to as many outlets as possible so voters can make a smart decision or an informed decision.
Daniel, I'm going to go to you because I think you were born during the Bush administration, and I'm not sure which Bush we're talking about. But as someone who grew up in a world where Twitter ruled more than the paper on the front step, what do you think about just the idea of that?
Practically speaking, I don't know how much weight it has, but I think it does translate sort of the vitriol and or feel good TV ads and online ads, and it strips away all that to really get to what the candidates are about, focusing on the sort of the politics and the political relationships and maneuvers and what they're proposing and who they are. So I think when you have to deal with a news outlet and get their endorsement or do an edit board meeting with them, you have to you have to strip away a lot of that stuff and really go up to the level of something professional.
All right, Daniel, I'm going to stick with you. And look, none of the four of us are hardcore political reporters. We're not on the campaign trail. But at the same time, we understand how that affects the business world and the overall world. So I think the biggest race in New Jersey right now is Malinowski and Kaine. This has a chance to potentially upset the control of the House. And for Republicans in New Jersey, it's potentially a second seat that could come. Daniel, when you hear about that campaign, what do you see and what do you hear, and how would that potentially impact the state and the country?
I mean, Malinowski is quite a very contentious district, so I don't think it would be a huge shock if Malinowski was to lose. By that I mean I don't think it'd be an upset to the political system. It wouldn't be as explosive as what Ciattarelli he almost pulled off. Taking the seat from Murphy, it wouldn't have that sort of shockwave that people would have to rethink what they're doing. So if he does lose, it's not going to force people to rethink what they're doing as much as say Ciattarelli and Murphy.
All right, I'm going to interject something that wasn't a shock at all. And that is whoever had Malinowski in that batting cage commercial, do you think they could have spent 10 seconds and taught him how to actually hold the bat properly? I mean, anybody looking at that is saying, okay, come on now. At least let's go over that. All jokes aside, Stacey, I go to you, Malinowski and Kaine, or we can go down to Andy Kim in the 3rd District and Healy. Where do you see, are things turning for the Republicans in the state? Is it too broad to say that? What do you think?
I think these races are more, it doesn't say something about the really a national picture. I think Malinowski has a lot going against him right now with the changing of the district, just the makeup of the district. I do think this anti-Democrat wave, plays into it. Or anti-Biden wave because of what's going on with the economy right now. So I think Malinowski could be in trouble. I mean, it's always whenever an incumbent loses, it's it makes news. But I think it wouldn't be a big surprise if he did lose because of all the things going against him right now.
So, Rhonda, I'm going to turn to you, but before you do, my nice segue on this is going to be, this is the shun election, right? This is going to be real clever. Wait for this. Someone said this is abortion versus inflation, right? What's going to be the key issue? We've talked about it before, how you tend to have straight voters, but this is a time where those two issues might make somebody cross over their traditional party lines. Abortion versus inflation. What's more important in New Jersey? What are you hearing? What are you seeing, Rhonda?
Well, it is interesting because some of the recent polls have put the economy and inflation in front. By the way, I just want to say I am forever skeptical of polls. I remember when we were all sitting around during the Murphy reelection campaign, And that was a far closer race than the polls indicated. So I take all that with a grain of salt. I do find it not surprising that the economy has moved to front place. Will it stay that way when people actually go in to vote or fill in their mail-in ballots? It seems like inflation might have the win over abortion. And given that that is at the moment an issue for states, and we know sort of where New Jersey stands on that, inflation is the issue that is impacting people on a daily basis. And it seems that is top of mind. So I think that's the issue that does win out.
Let's go to the reporter that works for the business publication, aside from me. Stacy, let's talk about inflation and the business aspect of elections. What are you guys seeing?
It's nobody knows what to do. I mean, every day there's new economic data out, and the market doesn't know how to react. It's just I think there was just I'm looking on my screen right now. There's good news about the economy rebounding, and the market is like not moving. So it's just nobody really knows what to make of it. But I think everyone is hoping. I think that the Fed stops raising rates, and that we get to a point where the Fed will stop raising rates. So we really have to see. I do think economy. I agree with Rhonda that economy is top of mind right now, and so you have, especially in like a Malinowski district, there are a lot of suburban people that are struggling. I mean, all people are struggling, but there are people struggling at the grocery store and struggling at the gas station, and I think that is going to be top of mind at the voting booth.
All right, now we have our first breaking news of the event, which longtime followers know this is my latest attempt at silly humor. The breaking news is that the governor has just announced that he is going to release a full and transparent account of all of the American Rescue Plan funds, what he has done with it, what he's going to do with it. There's just one catch. He says he'll do it right after they have the full and transparent meeting about what happened in the nursing home. So as soon as they hold that meeting, then he's going to release the funds. That little humor aside, I'm going to go to Daniel, who's doing a lot of great work covering the EDA and things like that. Let's talk about the American Rescue Plan funds. Where does it stand? What's left? What's coming? What are you hearing? I mean, this has been used to do a lot of good things, but there's still some money out there.
I mean, I think what a lot of the business community seems would be the best use of the American Rescue Plan is a rescue plan approach to grants, loans, support for business communities. This is theoretically a pandemic-induced recession. It would stand that. Any money that the EDA has would go towards supporting businesses, much in the same way that the start of the COVID pandemic with the CARES Act, we had that back under Trump, was just direct relief to businesses. That if things do go south, that it is something similar, so that this doesn't knock businesses down just as they're getting off their feet from COVID.
All right, so let me come back. I took a shot at the administration, so now I'm going to give them credit. They will say correctly and rightfully that they have held up numerous grant programs, all of which seem to be geared to small business, where they're giving out checks. And granted, the checks are $5,000, $10,000 here and there that you applied for. There has been more, and they'll say the total amount that has been given away to small business is close to, I'm going to use a number and I should know this, close to $1 billion. I mean, it's a huge amount. They'll say more than in other states. There's a fair argument coming back that said, hey, the unemployment insurance tax, which all of these businesses are going to get hit and walloped up over the couple of years, that's how a lot of states are using these funds. New Jersey has not. It's on the table, they say, as an option, which we all means there's no chance that they're ever going to do it. Rhonda, how much is that impacting the business community that the community is getting stuck with paying to refill the unemployment insurance?
Yeah, I mean, it matters. I have to say, I'm really surprised the way this played out, because there was a lot of lobbying for funds to be used for this purpose. Other states have done it. So it does matter, and it is a cost that can be lowered for businesses. And this is one thing that has really kind of surprised me through all the talk about what to do with the funds, that this was not utilized. And I know, it's still on the table, but I do think, why not? There's still money there to be given out. And if other states have done this successfully, I remain perplexed as to why we have not done it in New Jersey.
Stacey, I see you nodding yes. Daniel, you're straight-faced. What do you think, Daniel? What are you hearing when you talk to New Jersey businesses and CEOs about the UI fund?
A lot of the similar things that this is not really the time that businesses need a tax increase, even though this isn't something that came out of left field necessarily. This is not really what businesses need right now. I mean, I imagine if the economy continues to go south, I'm intrigued to see how Murphy lawmakers will react. And about a straight face, I guess I just sometimes have a straight face. I guess I could show some more facial expressions, but I that is a straight face of agreement.
Oh, nothing like a little RBF out of you, Daniel. I see my friend Walter, our unofficial fifth panelist, has jumped in here. How can we determine if NJ is in violation of how ARP funds are being used and not used? I don't know. Is there? I should know this. We're all reporters. I don't know the answer. Is there a way to determine that someone's in violation of using the funds? That seems like there should be, but at the same time, seems like there shouldn't be. Anybody jump in?
I think the U.S. Treasury has a very nifty guide, a few hundred pages, of very dense, like size 6 font legalese. So I want legalese. So you could just consult that. I hope it's a searchable form, but if not, then you just give it a quick read.
I think we all know that any large document of rules and regulation from the government is probably clear and easy to read and very precise in their language.
Yes.
So let's move on. A recession. Are we in a recession? Everyone wants to change the definition of it. It sure seems like we are. It sure seems that way when you go to the grocery store and you see things. Why is bottled water 3 times what it used to be? There's no supply chain issue here. Rhonda, what do you think? Are we in a recession? What are you hearing?
Well, by the definition, of course, we are not. Stacey talked about the GDP number that came out earlier. It shows growth. We're supposed to see essentially 2 negative GDP prints is the old school definition of a recession. I have heard economists say it's hard to say we're in a recession when you look at the labor market with our unemployment rate being what it is. So job growth remains healthy, even if it's slowing. But a lot of people feel like if we're not in a recession, we're going to be soon. And, those are Wall Street firms making those predictions. So it's an interesting time. I mean, I remember, there's this saying, if it feels like a recession, sometimes it is a recession. And, the inflation part of it is troublesome. The supply chain issue, part of it is troublesome. Every recession kind of looks different. And of course, recessions are decided in the rear view mirror. There's a group that officially decides when we were in a recession. So, I think a lot of businesses will tell you they're still not feeling recovered. Their business isn't still where they want it to be. They're hurt by rising costs. Their customers can't afford to spend as much. So, they personally might feel like, yeah, this is a recession. I might feel like it's a recession, even though officially it's not.
Stacey, what do you think? Is this the old definition of I know it when I see it, so to speak?
Does it matter? It's just how we feel, right? My husband took a rare trip with me to the grocery store over the weekend, and he was $7 for eggs. I was like, yeah, that's what it's been costing lately. $7 for a dozen eggs. It's insane, right? It's I don't know. It's just it's how you feel, right? It doesn't really matter if we're technically in a recession. Because the definition, people have different definitions. But there's so many things going on right now, right? We've got I see demand out there. Like people want to get back out. People want to spend money, but then they go to spend money and it's like, oh my God, where did my $100 go? It's not buying what it used to. So there's a whole bunch of different factors fighting against each other. And I'm not exactly sure how it's going to play out, but right now people are struggling with costs and prices. But they want to get out, right? They want to get out of their house after being locked in COVID. I know I do. That's why I'm in my office, right? But it's whether whether people can actually afford what's out there. It's tough times.
Thankfully, a beautiful segue here that the state will soon offer numerous new industries where we can hire more people and make more money and spend jobs. So let's talk about some emerging industries out there. I was at the BPU event yesterday where they made some sort of an announcement on how we're going to handle offshore wind. Pretty big step for what we're going to do. There's always talk about the film and digital media things that are coming. Netflix is the preferred choice for Monmouth, which means I still need to dot the I's and cross the T's, but I think that's going to happen there where they're coming in. Those two issues, Daniel, I know you're all over this subject. How much of an impact do you see offshore wind and film and television and production impacting the state?
I don't want to say a mixed bag or bad or good, but this stuff takes time. So I know that over time that people will get hired, money will get invested into the offshore wind sector, but this is just something that's going to take the better part of a decade with the offshore wind. With film, I think Murphy really is pushing for these film studios. He made the quote a few years back that movie productions will come and go, but film studios like what Netflix will do in Fort Monmouth. I know there's a big one in Newark that's going to go up, and then there's one in Jersey City. Those stay there for a very long time. So that is like with offshore wind, that is something that can over time see dividends.
Rhonda, jump in on that.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. It doesn't seem like we're seeing a huge impact right away. Certainly with the wind industry, the efforts in South Jersey to get the manufacturing workforce ready, I think is good. Film industry, I mean, this is a very kind of cozy business, right? I can see Netflix coming here, and it doesn't mean there's going to be all these jobs. It's going to be, if you know somebody maybe in this industry, you have a job, or maybe they relocate here. I think that one I struggle with a little bit. I mean, I look more at like what's happening now. Transportation and logistics. We know that's a big industry in New Jersey. I do think we're going to have to watch and see it unfold. Certainly, you don't hear announcements like, oh, the film industry is going to bring thousands of jobs to New Jersey. There are these small little announcements about studios. Wind energy perhaps holds a little bit more promise if that proceeds as we think it's going to proceed.
All right, since it's Jersey and we love the sin tax and the sin events, let's have fun with this, Stacey. Some of the emergency industries that are showing some serious revenue have been cannabis sales and sports betting. I mean, we're already killing it on sports betting, and cannabis is coming up strong if that's your bag. Tell me what you think.
Syntax is right? It's I don't know how much actual money the state can make off of sports betting and cannabis. It's not going to make up for the loss in professional services, in tech, in pharma. It could help, but I mean all these things help, right? Film helps. It's great for businesses to come into New Jersey, but I don't know if you're going to see this just big wave like New Jersey is the cannabis capital, or I mean Atlantic City. We are known as a gambling destination. I see potential there, but at the same time, you have New York and all the states around us are doing the same thing. So I don't know that it's going to be going to help us bring in all these jobs.
And we know we have a long history of strong economic success with all the casinos in Atlantic City. Did exactly what they thought it would do 30 or 40 years ago. That joke aside, let's go back to the shuns. Abortion, women's health care. Let's talk about the idea of, if I'm a company, am I going to move to a state that's limiting women's health care? If I'm in a state that already does it, am I going to look to move to a state that doesn't, like New Jersey? I know a lot of people that choose New Jersey in the EDA are saying what the governor said. Look, you're going to pay a little bit more, but you're going to get a lot more. And in this case, you're going to get some basic human rights for women, which I think we're all in favor of, coming here. Does anyone see that spurring business coming to New Jersey just because the progressive mold that Murphy has pitched will pay off to companies? Anybody jump in on that?
It's hard to...
Go ahead, Daniel.
Oh, it's hard to say up on the get-go if they're coming in because of that. Businesses kind of want to tread I guess they want to walk on eggshells a bit with this kind of with something so sensitive. I know a few businesses though have made those announcements. Murphy seems to some extent agree. I asked him back in May, like, are you seeing businesses moving to New Jersey? Are you seeing businesses, film companies coming from states like Georgia and Texas to New Jersey? And he said it's hard to say if how much weight any one factor like that played into the calculus, but it does seem to be like a particular area that the state is continuing to try as this continues to evolve.
I think, it's a great talking point, right? It sounds really great for a politician, and it makes sense, right? I mean, I personally would want to go to and live in a place that is more open, more liberal, with some of these ideas. That's personally, but I don't see people really moving to New Jersey or New York or places like that. In fact, the migration patterns are showing they're moving to Texas and Florida even when this is all happening. So I don't know. It sounds really good for a politician to say come here, but I don't know if we're actually seeing people move for those reasons.
I know Eli Lilly made a big announcement when it first happened, but little has come since then. I don't cover Eli Lilly. I don't know what they're thinking, but I haven't heard anyone follow suit. Rhonda, what are you hearing?
Well, I think what's interesting is there have been some companies that have made announcements. They might be located somewhere else, but they'll say we will pay for costs if we have an employee who wants to go somewhere and have a legal abortion. And I think we've heard more of that. I mean, the issue for businesses is always businesses are in the business to make money. So that is an important factor. And if their overall costs of doing business are less expensive somewhere, I could see more companies perhaps deciding we'll stay here, but we'll make sure our employees are able to get healthcare in a manner in which they want to. And so you did see some larger companies make announcements like that. Now, if it's a brand new company, maybe that's a different story. That's cheaper than relocating in some cases.
Daniel, you do a lot of EDA work and a lot of Choose New Jersey work, and the state is bringing in some companies, and certainly on the international spectrum, right? The governor's journeys overseas, by all accounts, are paying off a little bit, and I think we benefit there that, hey, we're 50 cents on the dollar to New York, so that alone, we look great. Talk about the cost of living and enticing companies to come here as opposed to the cost of living and forcing companies to leave. How do you see that balance?
Well, Murphy, he calls it, I'm sure everyone's heard the phrase here, a quote, good value for money state. A lot of businesses do seem to be moving here, not necessarily using these gigantic tax break programs that the state approved about 2 years ago. But on the other hand, I don't know, like with the beginning of COVID, a lot of businesses are, if they're just going to kind of hunker down and stay put, and something like a hiring spree or opening a new headquarters, it might not be at the top of any business's priority at the moment. So a lot of businesses are just going to stay where they are and not really do anything. But going into the recession in the last year, you did see a few moves, the governor, that is, with Pfizer and the company in Nutley. Party City and Woodcliff Lakes. So there have been a few successes, but the timing has not necessarily been the best right now.
It's still a weird time for companies sorting it out, right? A lot of companies are still in this hybrid working mode. They have to figure out what they're doing with their office space. Some of these companies are using co-working spaces. So just to tag on to Daniel's thoughts there, it's still, we're still emerging from this pandemic with some uncertainties in terms of business planning and what your footprint looks like going forward.
There was a study that came across my email this morning, and I don't know if this is one of those Wallet Hub studies that is what it is, but they came up with the metric that employees are 41% more effective working at home than they are in the office. That being said, I'm going to go to Stacy, who's in her office, who would be fighting for the right to come to the office. I come to an office. I love the separation. Where do we stand on that? Forcing people to come to work, people wanting to come to work. They're more productive. They're less productive. A whole wide open thing. Stacy, take any part of that you want.
Well, I'm a strange breed. I love to come to the office. I mean, but it's just I have a very loud husband at home, so I can't work from home. But I think definitely companies are lately are stepping up the pressure to get people back in the office. It's not working so well. I think we're still at less than half percent, less than 50% occupancy in offices and nationwide. It's just people want more flexibility, and I mean it's proved to some people that weren't able to go into an office. It's provided job opportunities. Bloomberg, I'm just pointing out, Bloomberg had a really great story 2 weeks ago about how it's provided opportunities for people with disabilities who weren't able to go into an office, and now they're able to work, from their home. So this is, I think companies have to be more open-minded, and they are about, about allowing people to work from home if they need to. And the need is there. I mean, any working mom will tell you that the working from home one day a week is just, sometimes you need to, or I'm sorry, working father as well. It's just, it's work-life balance, I think, has become a bigger issue, and I think companies are more focused on it.
And let's talk, I'm going to turn to you, Rhonda. Another subject that's coming up, I think we're all more aware of microaggressions that go on in the workplace. And I'm sure people are nodding and saying, okay, yeah, the man's finally finding out what we've been dealing with our whole lives. But for a number of different classifications of people who face these microaggressions in the office that make the office, quite frankly, a slightly uncomfortable place to be at, now you can work from home, just do your job. That's got to be a relief to a large quality of people. Rhonda?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And I mean, listen, some people love going into work, whether it's the loud husband or that's their social outlet. But, for other people, there are a lot of that kind of inner office politicking that goes on, as well as some moments that aren't comfortable. And we've certainly seen companies try to increase their awareness about how people are treated in the office. But I think, this has become a very interesting, I don't want to call it a battleground, but a shift. And I wonder what happens, right now the unemployment rate is low and workers do have a little bit of power, and they can say, you know what, maybe I do want to work from home, and companies want to keep them. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if this is temporary or is this a permanent shift. And for whatever reason that people want to work or go in, will companies be more flexible going forward? Does it benefit them? I'll just give you one quick example. My personal work changed a lot during the pandemic in terms of what I do. The time I'm usually spent commuting, that is what my company has with more productive work hours for me. So for me, going back to commuting 5 days a week, when and if that would happen, somebody else is going to have to do what I've been doing. So I think that story plays out a lot. And, companies really kind of have to figure out if they want employees back, how do they do that? Why do their employees don't want to come back? And is there some sort of balance that keeps companies productive and employees happy?
So at the beginning of the pandemic, somebody very smart said to me, look, it's easy to all work remotely when you all know each other, right? Because you know what person A and person, I know what I'm going to get from Stacy. I know what I'm going to get from Daniel. I know what I'm going to get from Rhonda. We work together. It's great. But then when we hired Tom Bracken to join the team, and we don't know Tom and we don't know what he's doing, and he's just sort of randomly virtual, they said that's going to be an issue. I don't know that that's played out. Now what I'm hearing is, okay, wait until someone who's in the office gets promoted over someone who's not in the office. Is that going to make more people come in? That dynamic, I think, needs to go. Anybody jump in on either of those ideas?
I have heard that as well, that, that they're going to, companies are, making, allowing people to work from home. But when it comes down to it, if you're not in the office, part of what's going on, that you might suffer and not get that promotion. For some people, they're like, cool, it's worth it to me, right? Don't give me that promotion just so I don't, I think that everyone is this post-COVID thing is this work-life balance, right? And someone's like, you know what? I don't want that promotion. But people that do, I think there is a pressure to work in the office.
What will be curious is I went to the Evernorth opening in my hometown of Morris Plains, and they're a healthcare technology company in this beautiful facility, the old Honeywell facility. Insert why Honeywell left for North Carolina. And I remember the CEO telling me, he said, look, we've got, I'm going to use round numbers here. We've got 900 employees and I've got seats for 500 here. And he was good with that because he knows that there's never going to be a day when all 900, he's like, I'm hoping to have half here on every day. And I know that on Monday and especially Friday, I'm not going to get that. So you've got a rearrangement of office real estate, which will be interesting. And with all of these facing out, Daniel, I cut you off. I'm going to let you jump in. Go.
Yeah, tech firms especially, they really have to offer that as part of their package of the ability to work from home. If you go for an applicant from Hawaii that is qualified, then they should be able to apply. I guess Hawaii is too far of a time zone, but maybe a few states over. I guess getting passed over for the promotion, there is the millennial and Gen Z way of doing things, which is find another job with better responsibilities and more pay, and then spend a few years there, and then you work your way up the corporate food chain that way, rather than.
Says the guy who just jumped to the Bergen record.
The millennial Gen Z way of doing things. So
well,
there's a generational difference.
Some of my kids are older and getting their first internships and first jobs, and just the look on their faces when I try to explain, yeah, people commuted to New York City every day of the week for, 40 years. They're like, are you kidding me? I'll do that once a week tops. So I think that like we've all said, the employees have to figure it out and the employers have to figure it out. Here's what we need to figure out. Nice segue for me here. The status of the fight between New York and New Jersey on congestion pricing. Segues right into it. Who wants to try to attack that?
I do know Gottheimer Congressman Gottheimer's been very vocal about it. He put out a few tax breaks proposals for businesses to move into New Jersey, but I do have skepticism on the tax breaks at this time of this kind of recession. But I think this is just another one of those tit for tats with New York and New Jersey. There was the Waterfront Commission, or the thing about the two ports. So New Jersey and New York haven't always been the best of buddies, it seems.
I think this congestion pricing, it's inevitable, but it might be good in that people will say, you know what, I don't want to work in the city, and maybe it'll be good for New Jersey, and that people say, I'm going to find a job in Jersey. I'm not going to deal with that awful commute into New York City. My company's headquartered in New York City. It takes me 2 hours each way, and that's why I work in Princeton. I think, it might end up being good. If you think about it like a bigger picture, we don't want people driving into New York City, right? It's just we want people taking mass transit. But that's another story why people don't take mass transit. But it's just, I think it's inevitable, but I hope it's good for Jersey.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
No.
I was just going to say, NJ Transit has not raised its fares lately, so there is that added incentive if you're worried about costs to hop on mass transit.
Yeah, no, and one of the other issues is the tax situation, right? Am I a New Jersey employee working at a New York company? And I don't know where that stands. If Senator Oroho is here, he's been beating the drum on that, on why are New Jersey residents paying those New Jersey taxes, because their company is headquartered in New York. This is crazy. We're not going in. I know there's a big fight between New Hampshire and Massachusetts that's still paying out, but that's potential money, free money for the state if we can get maybe more companies to open up a New Jersey satellite office and say, no, we're working here. Again, I don't know all the ground rules on that. If anybody wants to jump in, please.
I'm trying to remember the company. Stacey, Mindy, you'll remember. It was one of the big money center banks. It might have been JP Morgan, who recently said they were looking at satellite offices in Connecticut and New Jersey. I might be wrong on the bank, but that would be huge because the banks like that are huge employers. So, some of these executives are realizing, hey, yeah, it is expensive for these people to come into New York. It takes 2 hours, but they don't want to lose the employees. So listen, New Jersey could really benefit from this. Plus, some people just are more uncomfortable in New York these days anyway. So I think we're still going to see how that plays out. I mean, I know I'm going to sound like, we hear this from the administration, but New Jersey does have a great, highly educated workforce, right? That's why we have so many of our pharma companies here. And if we see other companies say, let's get rid of the big offices in New York, let's put a satellite office in Jersey, it could be great for us.
So I guess we don't need to build that Gateway Tunnel, huh?
No, we still need to do that.
Give us an update on that. What are we hearing? Daniel, what are you hearing on the latest on that? I know that there's an announcement every other day. What are you hearing?
Let's just pray the tunnels stay working. I think about a decade of construction is what I'm hearing now. Sometime in the 30s, this will be done. Let's just pray there's not another Sandy level hurricane that would do what it did about a decade ago.
All right, we're coming up on the top of the hour. We want to respect everyone's time. I want to do a little bit more on politics and sort of the elections coming. First of all, let's talk about Murphy, Coughlin, and Scutari. How do we think they're working together? Scutari came in and I think pretty early let it be known that he wasn't going to be walked over. Coughlin is pretty strong. Murphy's pretty strong-willed. Is the three-headed triumvirate here working, not working? What do you guys think on how that's impacting business for non-political reporters?
Go ahead, Stacey.
No, please, you go.
I mean, it seems like they're, working fine and their agendas are fairly similar. I mean, it's definitely a different feeling without former Senate President Steve Sweeney. I think that's, it just has a kind of different vibe going on. But certainly, there's not a lot of ruffled feathers, it doesn't seem, at least publicly, between the three of them.
It's a little, I'm trying to think the right word, a little boring without Sweeney around, right? He was just, he brought some pizzazz into the State House. So it's kind of like, I don't know, you don't want your governor and your two legislative leaders always agreeing, and they seem to like to do their negotiating behind closed doors, which for us journalists, we hate that. We want them to, we want them to use us to negotiate and to fight. But so it kind of makes for a more boring job for us. So, but I think they seem to be getting along. For anyone who's, I've been covering politics for so long. I remember when there was, there's a Republican governor and a Democratic legislature, or the other way around. That makes my job a lot more fun. But and
I'll add the snarky comment here. I think we're all happy that we managed to find 3 white men in the most diverse state in the country that happens to be at least 50% female. I think we're glad that we're able to maintain that level of diversity, so we can mansplain everything to you guys.
Thanks so much for that, Tom.
Daniel, you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I think that was a really huge missed opportunity to really have a diverse legislative leadership. I know. I remember there's sort of just a lot of disappointment from people that there was not a person of color elected to one of those positions.
All right, real quick, we all recall our last governor took a lot of heat for the fact that he was out of the state, was clearly eyeing a different office, was heading the Republican National Governors Association, and not fully embracing the state of New Jersey. Phil Murphy is now the chair of the National Governors Association. He's out of the state a little bit. He's campaigning. What's up with that? Is that good for the state? Is that clearly showing he's dipping his toe into other ambitions? Does that help New Jersey when he gets out and people get a little bit branding for the state? Does it hurt us? I can go either way. I want to hear what you guys have to say.
It doesn't look like, I'll jump in. Doesn't look like New Jersey elected officials have really had much success for higher aspirations like Booker and Christie. So I know past performance doesn't reflect future, isn't a future indicator, but it just Murphy, just based on past performance with other positions by other individuals, there's a bit of a curse hanging over his head.
Rhonda, I'm not going to ask you not to curse, but what do you think of the situation?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. You know, I'm not really sure what, if any, of those ambitions are. There's certainly less attention, I think, on him being out of the state than what we saw previously. Does it help or hurt New Jersey? I mean, personally, I hope it helps. I don't know why sometimes there's this anti-Jersey chatter that we have out there. Certainly, you know, he is out there with his progressive agenda. I'm not certain if it helps or hurts. I'd like to think anybody saying anything about New Jersey that is helpful to the state will, in the end, make things better for us. But honestly, I think it's hard to tell.
Well, Stacey, I go to you from Murphy always says he's the head of sales and he's quite the salesman. So even if he's out campaigning on an issue or a candidate, if people are seeing New Jersey, hearing him talk, that has to be good for businesses in the area who again, they're not thinking about Minnesota or Georgia. They're thinking about New Jersey when they see him. That can't hurt the state's efforts to bring in other companies. What do you think?
I mean, I agree. It can't hurt. I don't know how much it helps. I don't know, Murphy meeting with a company in Texas or California. And, personally, I don't know if that's the thing that convinces them, to come to New Jersey. I think his traveling in general, we have to expect our governors to travel just when they get caught, right, in Florida during a storm or things like that, where it's like, what? Or it's, Governor Murphy at his villa in wherever, Italy, while people are struggling at home. That's where it becomes, it can hurt him. But in general, I think we want our governor to travel and talk good about New Jersey and talk to, get us federal help and get us, talk to companies.
All right, 9:55. I'm going to do a couple of things here before I turn it back over to Tom Bracken. I'm going to give a plug to the Chamber. Their Chamber Forward DEI Trailblazer Award event is November 3rd at Old Mill Inn. I think that's a great way to recognize. We make jokes about the diversity in the state, but it really is an important fabric that makes us who we are. And I salute Tom in the Chamber and John Harmon in the African American Chamber for bringing that together to try to get more recognition, not just of the people who are leading the charge, but the importance of the issue, which it is. And last, I'm going to take a different note that we have here and talk about hiring. We're all talking about low unemployment and trying to find employees. You can go any place and they're looking for someone. So I'm going to take this off of a manufacturing day from a panel, and this hits home personally for me. For those of you out here who are employers, I would suggest that you look outside the traditional realms. I'm going to start with the neurodiverse, which is something that is very personal for me and for Stacey, if I can say. And there's companies like Spectrum Works and Source Abled that are taking people on the spectrum at various different levels to do different jobs. Employment Horizons, right? We mentioned about these are people with maybe slightly a little bit more challenges in the workplace, but they're still eager and willing to work. And then, of course, there's all of the organizations that are helping veterans. I have down here Bridging the Gap, Soldier On, P3 Private-Public Partnership. There's a lot of different avenues where you can go to find employees. I would hope that everyone out there who's looking for it says, there's more than just Indeed. Let's look to expand our office pool. And quite frankly, I think that hiring a diverse talent pool also works well with your millennial class. They want to see a company that's bringing differences of opinions and different perspectives. And I always joke, so my son's on the spectrum. If you want someone who's going to be no hold barred, unfiltered, he'll tell you right away your plan sucks in front of 50 people in the door room. You're not getting a yes man with him. So for better or worse, sometimes things that seemingly hold you back in social circles might help you in the boardroom. That being said, I'm going to bring in our chairman of the board, Tom Bracken, to take us home.
Tom, thank you very much. And again, thanks for that plug on the November the 3rd Trailblazer event. It's going to be a very significant event for New Jersey, and I hope people come out and help us recognize companies that are really leading the DE&I charge in the state right now. Tom, always a fascinating, fast-paced, informative event, which you, Pancho, and Stacey, and Rhonda, and Daniel, always a pleasure to have you and keep the pace going and keep up with Tom. It's been a great hour, as it always is with you four. Again, I want to thank our sponsors, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, KPMG, New Jersey American Water, and Verizon. Again, thank you all for attending. There's a lot on the plate in New Jersey, a lot coming up in the near term. The only thing, Tom, I'm going to hold against you is you didn't answer the question I had on my biggest concern, but I guess that will be left for another day. But anyway, thank you all for participating. And again, for all the 4 panelists, we really appreciate your time and what you did for us today. So thank you, and everybody have a great day.
Stay classy, New Jersey.